Hi guys, Elias McCollum here, the Bitterroot Bard, back for another video. And I just want to do a short video today and show you a few new books that I just received yesterday from Amazon that I'm super stoked about getting into as soon as I can. They're a little ways down on my list of books to read, but I'm super excited. The first one is The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. And this thing is a beast. I had no idea how big, how long the Canterbury Tales were. And man, looking back on high school when we learned about the Canterbury Tales, we didn't even scratch the surface. We spent maybe a few days, and it was a few pages long. But this thing, the actual Canterbury Tales, this thing is massive. So this is going to be very interesting to read, and I'm excited because I have a lot of interest in Old English and Middle English texts. I've got a Wycliffe Bible translation of the Latin Vulgate, which is also in Middle English. Although I think Chaucer's English is a little bit newer than Wycliffe's, and so it should be it should be easier reading. But I am super stoked about this because being a writer of fantasy, a lot of my influence for my cultures and things is based on medieval England and Norway and different Western European medieval peoples. And so I really love the story Beowulf. I got a copy of Beowulf many years ago, and I always enjoyed Beowulf, but I had never had a copy of the Canterbury Tales, and so I am super stoked about this. This is going to be awesome. This is just, you're looking into medieval literature. I think as far as medieval England, this is the best we have for medieval literature. And this is written in the, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's written in the actual Middle English text. It's kind of weird, the camera, it's kind of got it backwards, but anyways, I hope you can see that it's got the actual Middle English spellings and everything. So this is like super cool. Super awesome, super authentic. And so I'm just really stoked about this. I'd always wanted to get a copy of the Canterbury Tales, but I just never had until now, and I don't know why, because this is going to be awesome as far as getting into medieval literature. Okay, and my next book that I just received in the same package is William Shakespeare's the first volume of his histories, and so this is gonna be very cool too, to add to my medieval and Renaissance library of literature. And you think about the story of, we've all heard the story, learned some about it probably in high school, and we've all seen the movies of King Henry. I can't remember which number in line he was, the 8th or whatever he was, but probably not the 8th, because he would have probably been before Henry V. But anyways, the King Henry that says has that famous speech. We band of brothers. I don't know why, for some reason, off the top of my head, I'm not remembering the beginning of that speech. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For each man who this day sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Anyways, that's a very famous speech. Awesome classic literature that I'm super stoked about getting into at some point here in my on my reading list. And awesome addition to my medieval Renaissance literature library and medieval history library. All right, and the last book I want to show you is something else I'm super stoked about, because I have an interest in medieval European contact in America. Being an American and doing my own fantasy writing, I'm kind of bringing in some of my Americanness into my fantasy world, like the Skraelings. The Indians that the Vikings encountered were called Skraelings. So I'm bringing that element into it a little bit, bringing some Native American culture into my stories a little bit. Because even though I'm in a medieval setting and it's in a Western European medieval setting, because these medieval cultures, European medieval cultures, did have some contact with the Native Americans, I am trying to bring that in to my fantasy as well and bring a little bit of my Americanness to the genre. And so this book that I got now just came in. This is about the Welsh Indians, the footprints of the Welsh Indians. And it's about how Prince Madoc, the Welsh prince, fled to America when I believe it was either his brother or some other relative that was contesting for the throne. He said, I don't want to fight you for it. You can have it. I'm going to America. And so he had made a trip to America and then later went back to Wales and brought some Welsh people with him, and they settled, but then they mixed with the Indians and basically lived among the Indian tribes. It's what we know of them, of what we've learned in history class in high school, and some other things. But this is a book all about the Welsh Indians. So I'm super stoked about this because I want to learn more about European contact in medieval times in the Americas with the Indians, the Native Americans. And this is really going to be a valuable resource for me in learning about that history and incorporating it into my own fantasy writing. If you've ever heard about the Moon-Eyed people, anyways, check that out. There's some YouTube videos that other people have done specifically on the Moon-Eyed people and theories about who they might have been. And one theory is that maybe they were some of the Welsh that came to America with Prince Madoc. That's just a theory, one theory. Whether that's fact or not, the Moon-Eyed people, there's a lot of myth around that. A lot of folklore and myth around the stories of that. But the fact is that there's these ruins of European-style stone buildings in America that the Cherokee say was built by people that were here, that were there in that region of the eastern United States before they were there. And so it's very interesting. And one theory is that it could have been the Welsh before they mixed with the Indians or whatever. Anyways, so I do have a little bit, I am putting a little bit about the Moonite people into my fantasy writing as well, but I am just super stoked about this book, The Footprints of the Welsh Indians. This is going to be a great resource for me about European medieval European contact in the Americas with the Native Americans. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed seeing those books. And if you have read any of those books and you have any comments about them, anything you want to share with me about them, I would be super stoked to hear about it. And be able to discuss it with you when I get to reading it. And I'll probably when I end up reading these books, I will probably end up doing videos on each one as I read them. But that's going to be a ways down the line because I have a bunch of other books on my list already that I had purchased that I haven't got to reading yet. So also, along with the thought of putting Americanness into the fantasy genre, one of the books on my list before I read these other three books is the Gormenghast trilogy by Mervyn. Let me see. I gotta look at my bookshelf. Mervyn Peake, who was an American author. So that's going to be an interesting read when I get to that. So it'll be interesting because knowing that he was a classic American fantasy author. And actually, C.S. Lewis had read his works. And I don't know whether Tolkien had ever read Mervyn Peake or not. But C.S. Lewis... let me just grab that real quick off the shelf, and I'll tell you what C.S. Lewis said about Mervyn Peake's Gormenghast trilogy. Okay, so here it is, the Gormenghast trilogy, which is on my list by Mervyn Peake, and C.S. Lewis says of him, Peake's books are actual additions to life. They give, like certain rare dreams, sensations we never had before, and enlarge our conception of the range of possible experience. Amen. Amen. So I'm super stoked about those three books that I showed you. And anyways, I'm super stoked about this book too, because being that it's an American classic fantasy author, I'm interested in that, me being an American, and seeing what he had to add to the genre and how he brought his Americanness into the fantasy genre. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to give it a like, don't forget to share, and don't forget to subscribe. Forget not the stories of the past. Draw wisdom from them with which you can shape the story of your future. God bless. I'm out.